Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Yes, not content with traveling to Japan once already in March of this year to attend Hololive 5th Fest, come October, I was once again hopping on a plane to refill my body full of Boss Coffee and Konbini Onigiri. Why, you ask? Because Sakura Miko first Sololive Flower Fantasista. Real quick before we get started, if you enjoy what you see, please give the video a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and tell your friends. So if you watched my video about my trip to HoloFest, you will know all too well, Miko is my oshi. My kami oshi, the oshi to end all oshis. So when she announced her first Sololive would be taking place in October, I was conflicted. Did I have the time off to be able to attend? Miraculously, for someone who works away from home half the year, I did. It fell really nicely into a gap in my schedule. But still, to travel halfway around the world for the sole purpose of attending a concert, that seemed a little crazy. So, I figured I'd let fate decide. If you watched my HoloFest video, you'll know the ticketing for these events works on a lottery system. So you apply, you wait a few weeks for it to be drawn, and if you're really lucky, you get the chance to buy a ticket. I decided the only logical way to decide if I should undertake this journey was to let fate decide. So I entered the lottery. Just once. And if fate thought I should go, then I would make the arrangements. And then, lo and behold, when the first lottery was announced, I had lost. Oh. But then, a month later, the second lottery was drawn. I entered again, and against all odds, I somehow won. I said if I won, I was going, so I booked my flights, booked a hotel, and I was on my way. The travel was rough. From where I am in the north of the UK, I took 4 trains after missing a further 2 due to delays, and then 2 flights with a very rushed layover in China. I landed in Tokyo, Haneda, took 1 more train, and then my hotel was a 10-minute walk. I stayed in an APA hotel, which is pretty cheap and honestly really nice for the price. I was also blessed by fate because this was the Wi-Fi password for my room. I arrived early evening on the 24th with the concert set to take place on the 26th. As I'd only be staying for 5 days total this time around, I had to try and cram as much Tokyo as my body could handle into a relatively short amount of time. Luckily, my hotel was right next to a giant book-off where I managed to grab some of these little holo figures of Crony, Nene, and Luna, as well as a Wiimote because you never know when you might need to bowl a quick game. A quick cocoa curry later, and I was off to bed. Day 2 was going to be intense. I'd grabbed a lot of holo merch on my trip in March, video here, but there was always space in my Miko shrine for new additions. So running on very little sleep and a lot of Rainbow Boss, I planned to hit up Akihabara, Nakano, and Ikebukuro, places I'd had a lot of success finding holo merch last time. I honestly hadn't planned to spend much time in Akihabara this time around because last time, half the places I wanted to check out, I literally could not get into. But this time around, without the mass gathering of HoloFest, these places were easier to get into, and I can absolutely see why there was such a hype to get in. The 2 stores last time that I hadn't been able to see the merch in were K-Books, which I didn't find much aside from a cute Bochi plush, and Kotobukiya, which last time you literally could not get into unless you arrived at the store opening and secured an entry ticket at like 11 a.m. And well, I'm not getting out of bed that early. What am I, an idiot? And I can see why. They have a huge range of newer holo merch, including these amazing fan name keychains. I obviously grabbed a Miko keychain, and there was a lot of plushies. I could not resist Aokun's charms, so she and Bochi became the new residents of my Miko bag. However, a store I somehow completely missed last time and is an absolute must visit for any holo fan visiting Akihabara is Fandom. This is a dedicated VTuber store with 5 floors of merch. The second and third, and also a lot of the first, are dedicated solely to Hololive. And it's here where time started to slip away from me. I was blown away by the range and depth of the merch they had, which ranged from postcards and stickers to huge tapestries and plushes, birthday merch. They also had a dedicated corner for Miko to celebrate her Sololive, where Miko P could write notes. However, by the time I arrived, the board was full and they were out of sticky notes. I spent a full hour just browsing before loading up a basket and spending most of my budget for the trip. I won't go into detail as we'd be here for hours, but I did do a hololive TCG pack unboxing and a Japan haul stream, which you can check out here if you'd like. My body was tired, but I dragged myself over to Nakano, where I explored Broadway, grabbed a quick bite at Ichiran Ramen, but no luck with holo merch here. So I headed to my final destination of the day, Ikebukuro, because I knew there was at the very least a Monster Hunter Hololive collab at the Capcom arcade, so I wanted to check that out. The art and the merch was all super fun, but after dropping 2,000 yen on a crane game with diminishing returns, I left with no Corone pillow, but I did get an Okayu plastic folder as a consolation prize. One Bragas gavel stand later, and I headed back to the hotel to try and get some rest for the big day tomorrow. So, the day had arrived. Due to my shopping spree yesterday, my Miko Ita bag was complete, and I was ready to get in there with my fellow Miko P, shout, cry, and wave my penlights around. But before heading to the concert, I had one important stop to make. I mentioned in my last video that one of my major regrets attending HoloFest was not participating in any activities with other Holo fans around the expo, so I wanted to try and rectify that this time around. A quick Google had led me to a Miko P Discord server, which I joined, and I did my best to stay up to date on any and all fan meetups. Due to what I can only describe as chronic social anxiety, I didn't end up making it to the majority of these meetups, but the one I did make it to made it all worthwhile. In the hours before the show, there was a massive global gathering of Miko P for a huge group photo. It was really, really impressive. A lot of preparation had gone into registering everyone who was attending, organizing everyone by height groups. I was in the tallest one, if you were wondering, and basically making it all run as smoothly and efficiently as possible in the limited time we had to take the pictures. You can see the finished product here. I'm in there somewhere. And please check out the social links for the organizers in the description below. I got to chat and meet with some other international Miko P, and I want to give a special shout out to Ben from Hong Kong, who bought 10 copies of Miko's album at the venue's merch store that day in order to try and pull a signed Miko card. Because he'd bought so many, he'd also gotten multiple copies of this limited edition postcard, one of which he kindly gave to me. I genuinely have issues talking to people in situations like that, so it meant a lot. Thanks, Ben. I also picked up this fan-made Happy from the American Miko P, so thank you. I had a bit of time after the photo to grab some food, so I decided to head over to the nearby mall to grab a quick bite. It was, however, on the way there that I realized with horror that I'd forgotten my pen lights at the hotel. Oh, no! This was a disaster. I didn't have time to go back to the hotel and still make it in time for the concert, so I frantically Googled anywhere that would be likely to have any in the area. The mall I was heading to, it looked like they had a gamers store, which is a store that sells idol-related merchandise, so I figured this was my best bet. After rushing there and searching for what seemed like every square inch of its displays, I finally found a display full of pen lights. I grabbed the one I felt was most appropriate, this heart light, checked that it had a pink setting, and I was finally ready to hit the show. So I actually arrived to the arena fairly late. There had been Miko P there since 6 a.m. queuing to buy official merch, which had long since sold out. But due to my penlight mishap, I was arriving dangerously close to the showtime. I arrived to see Miko P still filtering in, so my panic subsided as I attempted to take it all in. I traveled nearly 6,000 miles for 24 hours straight on various planes and trains, and it was all for this. Life is crazy, right? I didn't want to take for granted just how lucky I was to be here on this night. So from the instant Miko arrived on stage, I was shouting along. I was flailing my penlights and just grinning from ear to ear. I laughed. I cried. It had all been totally worth it. Most Japanese events have a strict no photos or videos policy in effect, which I'm ashamed to say I didn't 100% adhere to. Cover, please forgive me. But here are just a few snippets of my view from the arena. Considering it was the cheap seats, the view was really good. I don't know where to begin or how to summarize the show itself. The reason I'm such a fan of Miko is she just seems to have boundless natural charisma. I don't speak Japanese, so the extended MC sessions I couldn't really follow, but through her delivery and emotion, I got the vibe. This was a huge deal for someone who's worked incredibly hard to get to this level. And especially being someone who's performed a live event or two in their life, I got it. The set itself was largely pulled from Flower Fantasista, with a couple of older tracks and a cover thrown in for good measure, which I had to look up after the fact. It is a banger. My Name is Elite fully got me. That song was one of my first experiences with Miko. It probably wasn't my first, but it was definitely the first piece of music I heard from Hololive that I was like, oh, this goes so hard. I just adore the energy and the vibe of it. And the two songs are Suisse, Sugar Rush, and the incredible cover of Stella Stella more than made up for any Me Comet withdrawal I had at Fest earlier in the year. So yeah, that was it. The show is over. And after an emotional snapshot with the audience behind her and some upcoming announcements, I found myself leaving the arena, surrounded by fellow Mikopi. In the days following, I did a bit more sightseeing and a lot more shopping. But the feeling of being in that arena live was something I don't think I'll ever forget. I don't know if the stars will align quite so nicely if and when Miko announces a second Sololive, but if I can be there, I will. I've been Punk Brock, proud Miko P, and thank you for watching.